Hey, everybody, Jerry Corley here with Joe Dungan at the Comedy Clinic podcast, where we talk about all things comedy, comedy-related, and sometimes outside comedy. Like our last episode, I think we went off on some tangent, but it was fun.
Pharmaceuticals.
But it's basically the comedic view on all things life.
And, well, sometimes this is like, as I've told people, it's kind of like when you and I have breakfast together. We just go and go and go, and the servers get furious with us because we're hogging up their table for 2.5 hours because we're just chatting away.
It's never that full.
That's right. It's a good point.
Yeah, it's never that full. It's like if they were worried, if I was observing, being a former server myself, I've served probably 1,000 moons over my hammy at the graveyard shift at Denny's.
Oh God.
Yeah. While working at an Italian restaurant on the other shifts, but the late shifts, the graveyard shifts, was because I was doing a play.
You worked at Denny's?
Yeah.
When was this?
Graveyard shifts. I don't even remember.
Because I worked at
80s?
Denny's. I worked at Denny's.
I worked at the Northridge Denny's.
I worked at the one in Woodland Hills.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
We were working at the same company.
Yeah, not at the same time. I worked there in 92. I lasted, this is no joke, I lasted 2 shifts.
Wow.
I did a Saturday night, and then like a week later I did another Saturday. I worked like 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. or something. And then like the real graveyard people, they stayed until sunrise or whatever. But then as it slowed down around 2 a.m., they're like, okay, you can go. So I did 2 shifts. And then their work week, I don't know about your Denny's, I don't know if you remember this, but their work week began on a Wednesday at 3 o'clock. That was the official beginning of the Denny's work week. Don't ask me why, but that's what it was. So I called, after my second shift, I called that Wednesday at 2:50. And I said, I'm just calling to see if I'm on the schedule this week. And the woman says, we haven't made it yet. And I'm going, okay, your work week begins in 10 minutes, but I don't run the restaurant, so whatever. I said, will you call me and let me know if I'm on the schedule this week or what I'm scheduled for? And she said, yeah. And I'm still waiting for him to call.
Still today.
Yeah, and they went out of business, so I blame them letting me go for that.
Yeah, that's it.
If they had kept me.
They let you go. 2 shifts.
Yeah.
I worked at Denny's graveyard shifts because I was doing a play, and I needed to recover that income I was losing at the dinner house I was working at. And so I was able to work lunches there at the dinner house, and then I'd go do the play, and after the play, I'd have people asking for my autograph outside the playhouse, and then I would leave there, go put on my Denny's vest, and go work at Denny's. Talk about eating crow. And you know, one time it's like, you got to pay the bills, right? So it was like, I was also singing in a rock band, and it was a fluke. It was just a part-time thing. What happened was, it was just this, we had this little thing, as a joke, I went up there and did Walk This Way, the Run DMC Aerosmith thing. I did to Walk This Way with the band, and the band were my friends, bunch of guys I knew, and everybody loved this band. And they said, Jerry, come up here and to Walk This Way. And as a joke, I went up there, and they started at psst, ba-dum, boom, psst, ba-dum, boom, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And I went on there and did this whole front man, almost in a comedic, over-the-top fashion. The dance floor fills up, people go nuts, they loved it. The lead singer of the band said, his name was Cronin Tierney, and he had his own like band. He was kind of a Michael McDonald type of, great singer, kind of a low-key guy. And he said, hey, man, you want to put together like 6 songs or whatever and do like a full set? That way I'll just go out to my van and smoke. And
It's not that you have great musical talent. He just wanted a long smoke
they
break.
They really dig you, you know? And he was like, ultimately, man, we're there to entertain. So you seem very entertaining. So yeah, why don't you do that? So I did.
Now, where was this?
This was at a place called Cheers in Simi Valley.
Okay.
Right? And it was a fun place to go. And so it would fill up and I'd do this thing. But now cut to me working at Denny's graveyard shifts. I'm working there. That's back when I would say smoking or non-smoking.
Yeah.
Right? And being smoking or non-smoking. And this group of people came in, obviously just had a great night. It's 2:30 in the morning, smoking or non-smoking. And this dude looks at me and goes, what the fuck, man? Whoa, what are you working here for, man? You're a rock star. You sing at Cheers, man. You're a fucking rock star. Why are you here, man? And I was like, talk about feeling like shit.
No, you were doing what you had to do.
Yeah, exactly. I remember Chuck Mangione.
Sure. Feels
The number
so good.
one musical instrumental live album of all time, right? Feels so good. Chuck Mangione. Look it up. He played the mellophone.
That way, he didn't play-
Flugelhorn.
It wasn't the trumpet?
It was a flugelhorn.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I thought it was a trumpet.
No, it was a flugelhorn, a little bigger than a trumpet. So it was mellow, right? It had the flugelhorn. So anyway, so the guitar player, his name was Grant Geisman. And they'd always, when he did the intro, hey, on the guitar, Grant Geisman. So we were doing my friend's wedding. We're at my friend's wedding. He had a band. And the guitar player's name was Grant Geisman. And we were like, we all knew Chuck Mangione, right? We were in the band in high school. So he was like, what are you doing here? He said, making a living.
Wow. That's amazing.
And so it was like, I get it. You take the gigs that come.
Right. And also it's no knock on Grant Geisman, but people bought that album for Chuck Mangione. They didn't buy it for Grant Geisman.
Right,
I'm sure he did great work on it, but hello, 20 Feet from Stardom. You ever see that documentary?
Yeah.
Ugh.
And you're always doing something. And that's the thing with musicians who take their shit seriously. A lot of them studio musicians, but a lot of them playing guitar in a band, and then they'll go do some studio work for somebody else, and then they'll go on tour with somebody else. It's like my friend Adam Cohen is a bass player, phenomenal bass player, super talented guy. He does studio work in town. He goes out and he goes on tour with Engelbert Humperdinck.
Wow.
As we call him, in your butt, hump your dick. And
can I use that?
Sure.
That's great. In your butt,
hump your dick.
Dick.
So he would be on tour with him, and he's now, most musicians don't last a long time with in your butt. He gets rid of them because he wants things a very specific way.
He wants things out of his butt.
But Adam is a really great player, so he's able, and he's smart as hell, so he's able to make those adjustments. And so he's now become sort of the leader of the band, the musicians in the group. And In Your Butt just says something to Adam, and Adam sort of talks to everybody there.
Is In Your Butt Humpadick? Is he?
He's 80.
But is he difficult?
He used to be really difficult. He's mellowed now, according to Adam.
But I don't, dude. You're past your prime at 50. Not people in general, but him.
Right.
It's like, why are you? What do you think is going to happen?
That's
here?
why he's been successful and working up until this point in his life, because he's been sort of meticulous and wanted things perfect.
But is that why fans went, or is he just difficult?
Good question.
Because you gotta pick your battles. You
got to pick your battles.
I host and head write a talk show, and there's a lot of things where I kind of go, I don't think this needs to be perfect. Let's just go with this.
Have fun.
Yeah.
And when you're doing stand-up, you don't need it to be perfect, because it's never going to be perfect.
No.
I'll never forget my dad. He was my biggest critic, right? My dad would come to see me in Vegas, and that bit I do about butts puckering. Mm-hmm. Every time the audience gets upset about a particular bit. Well, whenever he and my mom used to come see me, I would get more nervous. And it would be, I remember they came to see me, and I get done with the act, and we're walking down to the restaurant, walking down to the casino floor after my shows. And then my dad's like, talk about tight assholes, huh? And I said, man, I always get more nervous when you were mom in the audience. Now, cut to several years on the road, touring, being all over the place. My dad hadn't seen me in 5-6 years, or maybe longer. And then I'm doing a fundraiser at a high school for my brother's high school's soccer team. And at this restaurant, it was 18 or over only. And so everybody knew it was going to be a comedy show. It might tip into the adult. That's fine. They were paying $40 to be there because it was a fundraiser, plus they were getting dinner. And I did an hour-and-a-half show, standing ovation. 400 people there.
Wow.
And my dad was there. And went back to my mom. My mom was sick at that time, and he my mom said, "How was the show?" And he said, "Perfect." The next day he was like, that one part, you might want to turn the sideways to the audience so they see you're in a running motion. And I tried it, and it was much better. Mm-hmm. It was like, fuck.
Yeah.
It's like never fails. But it's never perfect. and being okay with it not being perfect when you're on the stage and laughing at the fact that you made a mistake. That's where the audience laughs. You're releasing that tension.
Yeah.
They know you just made a mistake, or if you slubbed some words or something like that.
If you can do it. Yeah.
I said slubbed words.
Slub words. I got that.
What does that mean?
Slub?
Yeah.
It's how they say flub in Canada. Slub. I don't know. I'm just making that up.
But that's an example. If you make a mistake, acknowledge.
As I tell my students, I've only had one perfect set in my life. It was a few years ago. Richie Leese was doing a thing where he was trying to have a show to apparently break the Guinness Book of World Records for most comedians on one show. Now, of course, you can't have 112 comedians doing 10 minutes each. That's just not fair. So he gathered us all together and he said, look, you're doing one joke. Don't do a setup and then another joke to set up another joke. No. Just do one joke. There's 3 micro, A through M on this side of the stage, N through Z on this side of the stage. Here's the list of all 114 comedians, whatever it was. When you're next, you go up to the mic that's vacated. The other 2 people, the other 2 mics, they're going to do a joke. And when they each do their joke, then it's your turn. You do your joke and you leave. So he had 3 mics on the stage. Yeah, I think you had to say your name or something, and then you tell your joke. And he did it in an hour and 30 minutes, 90 minutes. He had like 114 comedians go up. And I told one joke, and it got a laugh, and I got off. That is, to this day, the only set I've ever done that has gone perfectly.
One joke.
Because I had one joke. I was up there for 15 seconds.
Now, if you got in your head and you said, oh, my God, I only have one joke and I have to get it perfect.
Yep.
You might have run into a problem.
Oh, yeah. But it's like, you hang out with a bunch of comedians, a bunch of people you know, you've seen them around, some you haven't seen in a while, so you just sit off to the side quietly. And
now you feel like it's a bunch of you just fucking off, you know?
But it was fun. It was fun. You know who was there? It was Brian Kiley.
That's awesome.
In something like that. And I remember talking to him afterwards, and he kind of said the sentiment of something like, I should get out of the house more. And at first I thought, I'm not sure about this, but yeah, it was fun. I'm glad I did it. And it's just, you kind of need to go off and do it.
It goes back to the Grant Geisman thing. It's like musicians are working because every time you're working, playing some different music, you're getting out of your comfort zone. And that's the only way you continue to grow and learn and get better.
Yeah.
There's that book I was telling you about, Peak, was talking about how people learn. And they said a doctor who's been doing it 20 years runs the risk of not being as effective as a doctor who's been doing it 5 years, because they automatize everything and they stop learning. And it's like, whereas a new doctor, a guy's been doing 5 years, still discovering and learning and growing. And that's why I make sure my doctor is a female, because the studies show that women, female doctors, have a lower mortality rate than male doctors because they care more.
Oh, you mean among their patients they have a lower mortality rate? Okay.
So it's like I'm finding the female doctor. Besides, if I want somebody checking my prostate, it's going to be a woman.
Oh, sure. Yeah. That's a nice touch.
Yeah.
Breaks
I'll
up the morning.
I'll do the Chevy Chase, sing Moon River. I already did that with lovely. She was just doughy-eyed, big brown-eyed young lady, Jewish woman, just lovely. She was always pleasant when I went there. And I went there for strep throat one time. She actually called me that evening at 7 p.m. and asked me how I was doing.
Oh, sure. That's what she was asking.
Wow, that's so nice. And then I had to go in for so I immediately booked a prostate exam.
Another one.
But I had to get a physical, and she did the prostate exam, and I was uncomfortable, of course, so I sang Moon River. And she said, "Stop that, it's vibrating."
Really?
Yeah. I said, I'm going to marry this woman.
Do you sing bass or something?
Well,
how do you make your prostate vibrate?
Moon River. I just felt the vibration.
Whoa, stop it. Now I'm feeling
the vibration down in my diaphragm.
You're vibrating my prostate. Right? Knock it off.
She actually, so that made me embarrassed. She got the last laugh, and she won that little battle.
Is she still around?
She's somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah. She wasn't at the place where I was going. She left that office. So I was like, left that practice, and she went to something else. But man, I would love to find her again because I trusted her. She was smart. She was asked the right questions. I always felt comfortable. We were going to talk about something before this thing. We were talking about it, and it was about a female comedian, Dina Hashem. Dina Hashem, and I found this out on Twitter. And that, you want to keep up with current events, go to Twitter.
Totally.
Man. People are always talking about what the big thing is. And Dina Hashem did I guess Instagram would be a second choice.
Yeah, they talk about stuff on Instagram.
See, I
It's
know
more of a
some
mess.
ears are out there going, get on with it, dude. What? So I'm like deviating. Just as Dave Chappelle sometimes when he's about to tell a joke, he takes a sip of his beer. Or he goes to take a sip of his beer, never takes it, and he starts talking again. And he brings his beer up again. He goes, never talks about it. And they're like, somebody's like, just drink your beer. So Dina Hashem did a joke, and she got blowback big time.
I have the exact...
And blowback was death threats. She got death threats for a joke.
Let me read the joke.
Yeah,
so everyone knows it. This is from a Yahoo story on it. And this is her joke. Quote, is anyone still mourning extentation? I mean, I sound so white.
Extentatious?
Extentation.
Extentation?
That's what she wrote here. Yeah. Anyway, is anyone still mourning extentation? He's a rapper who was murdered. He's dead now. He was shot. He was on his way to buy a car with $50,000 in cash, and somebody shot him and took the money, which is very tragic. But I think also it would be a very good Venmo commercial. That's the first thing I thought when I heard that. Like, I don't have Venmo. I should get Venmo. End quote. That's the joke, which is a very irreverent, ambivalent. That's a joke structure that you teach. Being inappropriate when you should be reverent or respectful.
Yeah, being uncompassionate when you should be compassionate. I remember the good old days when kids worked in factories. You know,
right?
It's ambivalent.
Most of Anthony Jeselnik's stuff is
ambivalent. Absolutely.
Louis C.K. making fun of his kids to their faces. Ambivalent stuff. Some of Sarah Silverman's stuff is ambivalent. Yeah, common joke structure. Well, the joke went viral thanks to Sly and the Family Skullfucker. I forgot his name already. I remember that article I read earlier. Yeah. There was some clown, the real...
I have no idea, but interesting handle.
Yeah,
right? But
very interesting name that I've forgotten. Right. He sent it. It went viral. He posted it. He said, "Look at this," and people, fans of this rapper, were furious, and they started sending Dina Hashem death threats, which is just a little public service announcement for all of the people listening to this podcast. Death threats are not a healthy way to express your emotions. Why don't you figure out what you're really angry at and then express it in a healthier way? Felonies are generally not a healthy way to do that. So she got a lot of death threats on. I'm no psychologist, but
on top of that, Instagram should instantly delete them, drop them off. They've got to be strict about that. You can't make fucking death threats on use social media because it's killing your platform. You got to immediately take those people. Bye.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah, I'm hoping we'll get some kind of equilibrium in society sooner or later.
It's like a hockey game. If the ref doesn't start to take control of the high stickings, the elbows, the trippings, it's just going to exacerbate itself out of control.
And they'll kill themselves.
And it's like, if you don't take control of it now, it'll just go crazy.
Yeah.
So delete them. Bye.
Now, Hashem, again, I don't want to demonize the way she handled this. I'm sure everyone has an opinion about it. But according to this Yahoo story, they wrote, Hashem later apologized on her Instagram page. And if you read her quote, there isn't exactly an apology in here.
No apology.
Which I don't think she should have to apologize for. No. I think most comedians would feel that way, and I'll get to that in a moment. But what she did do was try to calm down the death threats. Because honestly, if you're getting death threats, I can see why you'd want to suddenly not take such a strong stand on things. I can get why. I can see why death threats would make you stand down a bit. So she wrote, and here's what she wrote, quote, I wasn't trying to hurt anyone's feelings. That's never what I want. I'm a comic, and I use jokes to try to make dark topics less painful, but I realize not everyone feels that way, and I don't want anyone to feel badly. It was taken down and won't air on TV. Or as, someone like Joey Diaz might say, fuck you. But that's his style, he might do that, but she didn't. And I don't like to hurt people's feelings when I tell jokes. Right. I don't think you do either.
No, comedy's supposed to elicit laughter. If it hurts somebody's feelings, it's no longer funny in my view. But there are some other people who find it funny.
Right. But how many, what, do you think there's a number that you can put on it? Like, what percentage of people have to be offended before you say, oops, okay, this is not funny. If it's funny to one person, technically it's funny. But if 99% of society is going, dude, you're a douchebag, you can't go around saying that, then do you stop?
You're going to lose your audience. You're going to not ever gain an audience if you're just pissing people off.
So what do you think? 50%, 20%, 10%?
It depends. Look at Bill Burr. He intentionally goes against the status quo to drum up a little bit of shock, right? To drum up a little bit of super curiosity, because when he starts talking about the opposite of where the tide is going, people respond, right? They know they're more emotional about it. But there's a different way to tap into people's emotions besides just being the devil's advocate. In this case, Burr is the devil's advocate. He'll take the current stream of thought and go, no, I'm going this way, just to show there's another way to look at this. Like, when he was on Conan and he starts going after Oprah, in a specific interview situation where she was asking somebody, why would you do that to get attention? And he goes, and she knows, she did her whole show. Remember when she started, she had like little midgets, on there, just like midgets who are humping each other, and it's like midgets banging other midgets. And she would do the first 5 years. That's what she was doing. And she got popular because she wasn't making the decisions. Then she starts making the decisions and it changed, but she knows exactly why he's doing that, to get attention. Right. And he's going but he's giving facts to support it.
Yep.
Right. So, but Bill likes to do that too. And he's so good at it. So, So to be able to go against the grain, what's expected, to be ambivalent, you got to test the waters. I say to her, you probably have to recast
You
that.
sure?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
I say to her, don't let that paralyze you. Don't let that paralyze you. So hit that.
There we go.
There
Okay,
it is.
there we are.
Right. Don't let that paralyze you in your writing. Continue to take those risks. I remember, and never ever edit yourself in the writing.
Have you noticed that every ambivalent comedian offends somebody sometime?
Yeah.
They all have that. You're going to have those outlier jokes that cross a line with too many people, and then it's going to make the news for a day, and everyone's going to forget about it. Now,
granted, I mean, remember and earlier we were talking about this, and I said one of the reasons people were so bold is because she's female.
That's part. Yeah. Let's dive into that also. Some of those things.
And there seems to be this attack on women lately, and I'm really getting fucking tired of it because it's just bullies. Now that being said, that's not the only reason, because when Anthony Jeselnik did that thing about that guy who was attacked, the shark attack in New Zealand, and he said, basically in his show, when he had that show, he was like, sharks are the most attacked species of animal. And he was like, these sharks are killed all the time. People are always going after sharks. And it's like, I feel sorry for the sharks. So this guy, wound up getting bitten by a shark. I think he may have died, right? And Jeselnik did Shark Party. Do you remember that? Shark Party? He did this thing about, had these ladies come out and they're dancing, Shark Party. I'm doing it in injustice, but it was so ambivalent, and New Zealand is so far away that we thought it was funny, right? People in New Zealand didn't think it was funny. He got death threats. Not only did he get death threats, his family got death threats.
Good Lord.
And then Jeselnik came forward the next time and made a joke about the fact that, first of all, they gave me death threats. That's the second worst thing you could do to me, is threaten to kill me. But on the other, I'm not doing an injustice. But if you kill me, I'm going to be famous. Then they started to give death threats to my parents. That's the first best thing that could happen. Again, his ambivalence.
Yeah.
Making the joke and letting everybody know, you can't fuck with me. You can't bring me down. And he's turning it on himself, saying, kill me, kill my parents. I'll be happy about it. Then where are you going to go from there? It's just like when you're in an argument with somebody and you say, instead of fighting them about it, you go, you're right.
Oh, yeah. Well, people like to argue.
You're right.
They need the resistance.
It's on me. And then they have nowhere to go.
Right, because they need the resistance.
Yeah.
And they're not trying to win an argument. They're trying to argue.
Yeah.
I think that's just what they want.
They're not just the psychology of it goes further. It's like they're trying to let you know who's in charge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's a lot of it.
It happens a lot with bosses when you get in an argument with your boss and he starts then, trying to pick on your mistakes and stuff like that. It's just he's trying to make sure you know who's in charge.
Yeah.
And instead of not acting like a leader, acting like a boss. A leader would go, so tell me what's going on that you haven't been able to make your shifts at work. You know, because maybe it was me. Maybe I wasn't clear enough that I need you, how much I need you here. You know, maybe I wasn't clear enough that 9 a.m., I need you ready to go because if you're behind, then this is behind, then this is behind. Maybe I wasn't clear enough, so it's on me. But bosses like to express who's in charge, and they take it personally. They take, if somebody's late to work, they take it personally, and that's the worst thing. That's why they say don't shit where you eat. Don't, start a relationship in your office with your boss, because if you don't show up at work, now he's taking it personally because, where are you? What are you doing? And then the jealousy gets involved. Then it becomes a big problem.
You know what I love about that term, don't shit where you eat? In that phrase, shit is a metaphor for dating.
I know.
Isn't that hilarious?
Right? That's weird.
It's like they know me.
Yeah. My dating life is a shit show.
Oh, God.
I think that's where the term shit show came from, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like, that's why I always wondered why they say fall in love. Shouldn't you step in love?
Yeah.
Shouldn't you step in
you
shit?
step in it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you're stepping in it.
Yeah. One of my first jokes was, you ever do this thing, speed dating, where you go on a date for like 8 minutes? I already do that. It's called dating.
That's good.
Because some of my dates would literally last 10 minutes.
Now, what is one of my favorite jokes you do?
Sexistentialism.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot the setup. It's been so long since I've done that. It's like, so I go to a dating site that's perfect for guys like me, sexistentialism.com. Have you been there? It's wonderful. Here's what happens. You skip the actual date. You jump ahead to the part where one of you stops texting the other one.
That's it.
It saves time.
Yeah.
I'm all about saving time.
Just stops texting the other one.
Yeah, it saves time.
So you make that intro, you share your phone numbers, and then you
ghost each other.
You
right
ghost
from the
each
start.
other. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Just ghost from the start.
You're living the possibility of the date. Then the date never happens.
Because that's the really important thing.
Yeah.
Is, notice in the word exist, it starts with the word X. So if you want to be in the moment.
What a coincidence.
If you want to be in the moment,
Yeah.
Jerry, you dwell on the past.
That better be in your act somewhere, because that is profound and funny as hell.
I find from some audiences do not want that kind of profundity.
I love
probably
it.
should. Why, thank you.
But if
next
you
time I
really,
do a comedy show just for you,
instead of just doing it as a joke, do it to inform, because your intent changes. When you do it to inform, you're making sure they're registering your point, and you're doing it almost professorially. And it's like the thing, the way. Notice in that phrase that the word the word exist or exists. This relationship exists. That word cannot be there unless you have the word X. It's already preordained.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, if you take your time and let them process that and see them put that together, that puzzle, they're like, oh shit, I never thought about it that way. Because the way you just described it to me was never the way you've ever done it on stage, if you've ever done it on stage.
No, I've never done that on stage.
But it was like, you really took your time to make sure I understood exactly what your intent was, what you meant. A lot of times we get to a joke and we stop communicating with the audience. We're just telling the joke. And the joke, you're trying to convey information. You've got to get the setup out so that people understand what you're trying to set up. Do you get the pictures? Do you get the images of the setting? It's a mini story. And what is story without character, theme, setting, conflict, plot? You got to make sure that this is the setting. If I don't tell you my daughter is 7 years old or 8 years old, I can't even remember. At 5, Joe, it's hard to keep track. Not 5 daughters, 5 kids. But when you communicate with the audience, you do that setup. They have to see the picture. If they don't see the picture, they're not going to know when you get to the punch what happened. They've got to see the whole picture. And if we don't take our time to communicate that to the audience, then they don't have it. You don't have to take your time like Anthony Jeselnik does. But you still have to make sure they're getting it. And you really got the intent to me across with this, and it made me laugh because I went, holy shit, that's so right. What a perfect little thing for a comedian. X is the first part of exist. A relationship can't exist, and when you're in a relationship, that was the first part of the existential, exist, right? It's existing. A relationship can't exist. But when a relationship is existing, you have to keep in mind this. What is the first part of exist? X. Exist can't be there without X.
Nope.
So it's already preordained, people.
And that's why you should not live in the present. The present sucks. If you don't like the present, there's a reason for that. You should hate the present because you can't spell present without resent.